Professor Stephen Hawking has today highlighted the plight of youngsters who, like him, can't breathe for themselves. He was at Parliament to launch a report by a Dorset charity which has found children living on long-term ventilation at home often lack specialist nursing care. Getting the right support can be vital. The Dixon family from Fleet in Hampshire lost their baby daughter 12 years ago. Elizabeth suffocated when her breathing tube blocked while she was being cared for by a nurse supplied by one of the largest private agencies in the country. Matthew Hill has been investigating her case.
Elizabeth Dixon died in her home where she'd been discharged to receive palliative care.
Lizzie, where's the gorgeous girl gone?
Elizabeth was profoundly disabled and suffered from a rare form of cancer. But it wasn't the cancer that ended her life. In the end, she died when the newly qualified nurse in charge of her care allowed the tube she breathed through to become blocked.
The next thing I heard was the sound of the nurse wailing outside the door.
She was saying, "Oh my God, Lizzie, oh my God." My daughter looked dead. I tried to suction her tracheostomy tube because my greatest fear was that she'd suffocate from someone not looking after her, managing it. And as I couldn't get a catheter in, I knew something wasn't right.
Before Elizabeth's death, her parents had raised concerns about the nurses being supplied by the private agency Prime Care.
One wasn't a paediatric nurse, and my daughter's anatomy was tiny, and two were actually joking about their knowledge of tracheostomies. So a training session was organised for the day before we came home. Two more nurses came to that, one of whom didn't appear to be listening or watching the training. So I raised more concerns following the training and specifically about that person.
And it was that nurse who was in charge of Elizabeth's care on the night she died. She'd just arrived after doing a 12-hour shift for an NHS hospital in the Midlands as part of a full-time job. So her job with Prime Care was for extra money.
We felt the nurse must have fallen asleep because it was completely blocked. And as a tube starts to block, you can hear wheezy, squeaky, whispery sounds, and the child will struggle. And if she was awake, she would have known that.
It took several years for an inquest to take place, and in the end, the coroner concluded that as a result of failure to clear the blockage from her tracheostomy tube, Elizabeth asphyxiated. But he said there was no suggestion of unlawful killing. Prime Care have declined our requests for an interview, but in this statement they say,
"This is a very sad case. Elizabeth Dixon was born with a life-limiting illness and had considerable health needs when she was brought home from the hospice to be cared for. Over the 12 years since Elizabeth's death, the case has been reviewed by the police and the coroner. Our heartfelt sympathy has always been with the Dixon family."
But behind the scenes, Prime Care realised the seriousness of the situation it faced. I've obtained this confidential memo written by the company shortly after Elizabeth's death, which says,
"There were shortcomings in the quality of care we provided."
It concedes the nurse was certainly inexperienced and it would be difficult defending her appointment. It says she may have given a morphine overdose to Elizabeth, which might have hastened her death. It concludes by saying,
"We need to proceed cautiously and remember that even if we retain the family's goodwill and confidence, the potential effects could still be considerable, including adverse publicity.